Hey, beautiful friend, it's Marnie. Welcome back to Life is Delicious. Before we get started, I just wanted to ask you a quick question. How many times this week did you say yes to things that you really wanted to say no to? And how many times did you accommodate someone else's wishes so that they would stay comfortable? Well, in fact, you were not. The reason I ask is because this has become a very common situation for women who overfunction, especially when we have a lot on our plate. So if you feel like you've been overfunctioning or people-pleasing or maybe just doing more than you actually feel like you can do happily, I've created something just for you. It's called the 5-Day Midlife Boundary Reset. It's a 5-day email program where we do some quick resets that help to rewire the fear of disappointing others, and it helps us stop disappointing ourselves. Join me over at lifeisdelicious.ca, where it's free to sign up, and it will really give you some quick inspiration for getting your boundaries back on track. Hey, beautiful friend, it's Marnie, and welcome back to Life is Delicious. Today's episode is one that I know is going to land deeply for so many of you, especially if you are in the season of life where your role as a mom is shifting, evolving, or even feeling like it's quietly disappearing, which it never does. Because here's the truth, and we're not talking about this often enough. When our kids leave home, it's not just about an empty bedroom. It can feel like an empty space inside of us. In fact, studies show that up to 1 in 3 women experience symptoms of the empty nest syndrome, feelings of sadness, loss of purpose, anxiety, and even depression during this transition. For many midlife women, especially those of us in the sandwich generation, this season can hit even harder. Because we've spent decades caring for everyone else, being needed, being the glue, and then suddenly everything changes. The house gets quieter, routines shift, and there's this question that starts to whisper, who am I now? And if you've ever felt a little lost in that space, or a little untethered, or even guilty for not feeling as free as you thought you would, you are not alone. And more importantly, there's nothing wrong with you. This isn't an ending, it's just a transition, and when supported properly, it can actually become one of the most powerful reinvention points of your life. Empty nest syndrome affects millions of women worldwide, yet it remains one of the least understood life transitions. Here's what the research shows. 25 to 30% of women experience significant depression during the empty nest transition. 40% report identity confusion when children leave home. 35% feel socially isolated during this period. And 67% experience relationship changes with their spouse or partner. However, 70% of women who receive proper support report improved life satisfaction within 12 months. That's inspiring. And that's why I'm excited for today's conversation. Today I'm joined by the incredible Kelly Salmons, who specializes in helping women navigate the empty nest transition with intention, clarity, and a renewed sense of purpose. She's created a collective called the Nest Evolution, and in this episode we're going to talk about why empty nest syndrome is so real and why so many women feel blindsided by it, the emotional and identity shifts that happen during this stage, and most importantly, how to move from feeling lost to feeling lit up again. So if you're in this season or you see it coming, this episode is going to feel like a deep exhale and a beautiful beginning. Welcome to this episode of Life is Delicious. I'm Marnie Martin, and I'm so glad you're here. And if this is your first time here, welcome to the Life is Delicious family. This podcast isn't about surviving midlife. It's about crafting your next chapter life, overflowing with purpose, joy, and delicious possibilities. Listen, midlife doesn't have to be a crisis. It can be a beautiful invitation to remember who we are, to rediscover a new version of ourselves, or to completely reinvent our life to reflect who we are becoming now. So if you're tired of being exhausted, living life on autopilot, and putting everyone else first, then you are in the right place. Each week, we'll bring you thought-provoking ideas and practical strategies, as well as inspiration to help you prioritize yourself again. It's time to take back your joie de vivre. So grab a notebook and pen and pop in those earbuds, and let's go get it. Welcome, Kelly, to the Life is Delicious podcast. I'm so happy to have you here, and I think the topic that we are going to discuss today is something pretty widespread that a lot of women are going to connect with. So tell us who you are and how you kind of got started in this particular business.
Sure. I'm Kelly Salmons, and I'm the founder of The Nest Evolution. My background, I was in the Navy. I was an educator, network administrator, entrepreneur, teacher. So I've worn many hats and done a lot of things, but always had that desire to serve others. And as I went through my empty nesting phase, and I'm in my empty nesting stage of my life now, I had a lot of struggles, and so I'm here now because I've created something to help others, other empty nesting moms kind of deal with that. So, yeah.
That's amazing, and I love the idea that you've created sort of a collective for people to come together, because I think more women than we probably realize struggle with the empty nest syndrome, and I don't think it's talked about as often as it needs to be. And I know your journey was pretty jarring and surprising that you felt the way that you did. So tell us a little bit more about what happened in your personal life when you found yourself in the empty nest.
Sure. So, long story. No, I was living on a mountain, and both my kids had headed off to school. My husband was traveling all the time for work, and said, okay, this was just as I was kind of coming into it, COVID, all of the things. And thankfully, I moved to Florida thinking, okay, great, I'm going to go back down and I live next door to my sister so that I have family around and to kind of help work through the process. And I went back into education and started teaching again. And I thought, perfect, I love teaching, I love design and curriculum, and that'll totally fill that hole of my kids leaving the house and heading off to school. Well, it wasn't the right job. It wasn't the right position. Just, it wasn't right. And I found myself being in a black hole because I didn't like my job. I didn't know what to do. I'm sitting there at home trying all of these things. Nothing's working. And just feeling completely stuck and lost and just kind of in survival mode, or functional freeze, where I was going through all the motions and you would never know that I wasn't happy, but I was miserable. And, one day I was home and my husband said, oh, hey, what do we want to do for dinner? And I just started crying because that overwhelmed me so much. Because I just couldn't make my list. And, I've always used my list to get me out of everything and to get everything done. And it didn't work. And so it was really hard. And I just was kind of stuck and lost and just cycling in it and couldn't figure out how to, move forward, because every time I think about, oh, well, I can move forward, and then I would just get further lost. So yeah, it was a really interesting time, and then add in, the stage of life and hormone shifting and helping my parents as they started, are starting to age, and also figuring out my kids and the new relationship there. All of those things kind of came together. It's kind of like a perfect storm.
It's interesting because I think that whole idea of the functional freeze is something a lot of us have dealt with in one capacity or another. I've had it myself, but not so much with the empty nest situation. But I think what's really interesting is that when our identity changes and we're so used to being mom, and then all of a sudden, like you say, our relationship with our kids is changing, and now we have to let them make decisions that we don't have control over anymore. And there's just so many layers to all of what's going on. It's not just that grieving the loss of having an empty bedroom in your house. It's an empty space inside you that feels like you don't know how to fill it. And it's a really strange place to be. So how did you work your way through that? And how did you come to create the Nest evolution? As we all know, life isn't always delicious. And one of the only constants we have in life is that things are always changing. Life can be a beautiful mess of twists and turns. And as we grow through each unique season of life, our needs change, our goals change, our priorities change, and our responsibilities change. And sometimes when the really hard stuff shows up, as it inevitably will, we can find ourselves lost and without a clear direction. Sometimes that can happen when we've had a huge life transition, like a divorce or a diagnosis, or we realize that our babies are all grown up and ready to be out on their own. And sometimes it can be a subtle or not so subtle restlessness that tells us we're ready to step into a bigger, bolder, more authentic version of ourselves. But one thing is for sure, we can't transition into what's next happily until we get really clear about what's weighing us down, what lights us up, and what we truly want when our soul whispers its truth. Happy is Not an Accident is a guided journal created to bring you back home to your truest self, to remember who you are, and to give you a safe place to explore and reflect on where you've been, where you really want to go, and who you want to become now. With deep, inspiring prompts, thought-provoking questions, and powerful exercises to help you excavate your most authentic self, Happy is Not an Accident will be the daily ritual that you look forward to as you step into this next awesome chapter of life. Give yourself the gift of self-reflection and create this beautiful life of yours on purpose and with intention. Get your copy or one for somebody that you love at lifeisdelicious.ca/happy.
Like 40% of women struggle with like their identity as they become empty nesters. So it's not a small number of us, that mom identity, we've had it for a long time and we wear it, with most of us with pride and as a badge. So it's a big transition and a big shift. I tried several different things. I took some time off after teaching because I had continued teaching for a little while, even though I knew I was going to leave. So I know that didn't help in me moving forward faster because I was not happy where I was with my job, but still, poly positive and making sure that the kids had a great day at school, as far as my students. So I did a lot of escaping into fantasy and, romantasy books. And I worked with some folks and tried some different things that sounded interesting to me to see maybe would that be a spark that would give me something that would allow me to move forward or grab onto something instead of just wanting to go back and read the next book. I saw a retreat for female veterans and I was like, oh, that's cool. And I kind of read through it and it was just like a random post on online. And I was like, well, that sounds cool. That's neat. Okay, next. And then it came up again and then I was like, no. And I started digging into it. And then I saw it a third time and I had been thinking about it, and I turned to my husband and I said, I really think I want to do this. And he and my mom for Christmas that year paid for the retreat so that I could go
Awesome.
to Costa Rica for 7 days. And it was amazing because, I wasn't grounded. I wasn't centered in myself. I was very much, stuck in analysis paralysis, but over analyzing everything and still trying to figure out, how do I fix this? What do I want to do? I don't know what I want to do. What am I going to do when I grow up? All of the things we tend to like fixate on and kind of spin on. And that opportunity to go, and I mean, doing yoga and forest bathing and, breath work and some energy work and, cacao ceremonies and like all of those experiences were so wonderful, because each one helped me ground back into myself and reconnect with myself. And on top of that, it was 7 days where I didn't have to worry about anything. I turned my phone off. I just focused on me. And it was such a gift because it allowed me to stop and just be and take a breath. And I think so many of us, when we get into a major transition in our lives, we're running and we're hustling and we forget to be. And that was so important because it allowed me to really kind of find a place and accept with, well, wow, I'm really struggling. And that's okay that I'm really struggling, but I wasn't ready to accept it until that week. And kind of, we did an exercise looking in the mirror and like talking to ourselves and kind of giving an oath to ourselves. And I really struggled with that and committing to taking care of myself. And that was an eye opener for me as well. And so all of that allowed me to kind of come back as a much, much more myself and much more in myself so that I could begin to really actually move forward. And so
that's amazing.
Yeah. And go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say it's amazing that you took that time for yourself, and that it's also one of those things that it's so interesting because we're so innately good at looking after our kids and our husbands and our families and our parents and everybody. And that just comes naturally to most of us that have the mother instinct. And then there's this place where it's like, why don't I do that for myself, right? And then your nervous system is all over the place when you're in that fight or flight or functional freeze, whatever you call it. So just giving yourself that gift of 7 days to reset your nervous system, allow yourself to breathe again, because so often we can't even begin to take a step forward when we don't know which direction we want to go.
And that's exactly it. And that was huge. And that allowed me, like I came back, my sister was like, hey, wow. Oh, look, you're like, you're almost, it's almost all you back. Like the real you is back. Because I would sit at family dinners. I live next door to my sister and my parents. So we have a little family compound and so we'll get together for dinner, on a regular basis. And so often I would go and just kind of lock into my phone, and I'd be there, but I wasn't really there. And I might comment for a few minutes, but then I would withdraw. And so it was nice to come back and actually like be part of the conversation and want to be part of the conversation. It wasn't completely fixed, but it was leaps and bounds ahead of where I was at. And
that's a gift that you lived next door to them, because so many people do not have that. Like my parents are, probably, my dad now is about 6, 7, 8 hours away from me, and you can still get there, but next door would be pretty awesome.
And in some days we spend lots of time, or some weeks we spend lots of time. At other days or times it's like, okay, everybody's going to their house because we've had enough family love, and
yes.
it's time. have our own spaces and we can retreat to
Yeah,
our safe spaces in our homes. So,
a blessing and a curse, right? It's
right,
finding the
exactly.
balance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm very thankful that that is the situation that I'm in and able to be there for everybody. Um, Again, serving others and, making sure I come back and am taking care of myself. Um,
Yes. So
you had asked
important.
how I kind of came to having the nest evolution. So much of it was, there were still many steps that I kind of took to get to this, but um, it was really, I wanted a community. And I would go to certain events. I got into some real estate and recognized that that was lighting a spark for me and giving me something that I wanted to take action on a daily basis, which then allowed me to, find more clarity in what I wanted to do. And how I kind of came to the nest evolution, and so that meeting different women and networking with them, and then also talking about where we're at in our lives and being empty nesters and all of those things, and I just realized so many of us are feeling the same way, but we don't really share that, and we don't really, it's not like you're going to get together and be like, "Hi, I'm Debbie Downer. Let me tell you how I'm missing my kids a lot and I'm miserable, and I know you're one of my besties, but you look really happy." And kind of that social media, like everybody else's lives are beautiful and wonderful, and we're not really seeing behind the camera or behind the scenes what, the struggles that people have. So that was part of my reason for wanting to create a community or a place to come together and connect.
That's
For
so
women
important.
to share. And, that was something I think, and as I've aged, I've found that more and more I want communities in things that I'm interested in or in areas that I'm, interested in. Because it's great doing it by yourself. But when you can do it and at the same time help, or you're lifting up, or others are lifting you up as you're going through it, there's nothing better than that. Like, it just feels so good that your little story that you bring or share, or your experience may help somebody else have a huge, huge breakthrough and allow
Yeah.
them to take a step forward, or,
What's
to get the next thing that they're looking for.
Yeah, and I think what's really fascinating is so often when we go through those kinds of challenges, we feel like we're the only one, and there's this real sense of loneliness and like I'm like nobody understands this because I'm going through this thing. And I remember going through a phase where one of my sons was dealing with some pretty serious depression, and I just didn't know what to do with that information. I just did the best I could. And I remember being at a dinner party one night, and I just somehow the timing was just good and the right people were in the room, and I felt safe enough to say, I'm really struggling with this. And what blew my mind was probably 3 or 4, maybe even 5 other women said, me too. And all of a sudden, my entire perspective on that shifted, and I realized how important it is. And like you say, I think that's the fear, is because we're afraid to be Debbie Downer. We're afraid to come in and go, I'm struggling with this. But I think what's really important is when you find a safe community, you find this beautiful collaboration with other people where you can share ideas and help each other through the hard stuff.
That's exactly it. It's interesting, like in teaching, I always take so many things back to being an educator and teaching. And, you're in your classroom and you're kind of, in that little like box with all your students. And, I did middle school, so they'd cycle through, and then you'd have the next group, and then you'd have the next group. And those few minutes in between where I could go out into the hallway and talk to the other teachers. But it was amazing what we were able to create and collaborate on in just 2 or 3 minutes in the hallway. in between classes while, telling the middle schoolers to calm down and, whatever else, all the other things going on. But it was so amazing how we were able to like lift, raise our bar as educators, raise the opportunities or the experiences for our students. And often those few minutes were like the highlights of the day because it got you excited about what you were going to be doing next, or the project that you were going to go work on, or the spark that it inspired. And so I think that probably is also like an underlying reason for having a community.
Yeah. What would you say are some of the silent struggles that a lot of women face in midlife that maybe nobody's talking about?
Well, I mean, I think you obviously, one of it is just feeling like you're the only one. We all tend to do that, and our brains tend to help us down that path, especially if we've got negative talk and negative speak going on in our heads. We overanalyze or you get online and get online and start looking things up, and it tells you all the horrible things, and you're like, no, I just stubbed my toe. Like, I'm not dying, I just stubbed my toe. But I think we do
catastrophize.
Yes, absolutely. I think we struggle to make a decision because we don't want to make the wrong decision, and we feel like it's because we're in that survival mode or that functional freeze mode. We struggle with making decisions, again, because we'll overanalyze or want it to be perfect, or don't want to make the fear of the wrong decision. One of the things that I have found to be tremendously beneficial is if it is not a life or death or like a major decision, like, okay, I'm buying a house, I'm not buying a house, like that takes a little more time to think about, right? But like, what am I having for dinner? Well, you get 5 minutes, set a timer, 5 minutes, make a decision, move on. Fine, it's chicken nuggets and a salad. Like, okay, great. But you know what? Now we're eating and we're moving on. And you know what? You can always change your mind. But it's like, I think we sometimes build up the decisions to be such big decisions when in fact really they're not. It's like, no, just go pick that toothpaste off the shelf. Like,
yeah, nobody's gonna die if you eat chicken nuggets, right?
Right. Like, okay, like it's not the healthiest meal, but you know what? At least, hey, I'm fed, and now I can go ahead and maybe I'll think a little clearer now because my blood sugar is more regulated, and now I can like make a meal plan for the next couple of days. But so often we just get stuck in it. And I think that's a lot of it. I think not wanting to share, a lot of people just don't want to share that they aren't totally together. Or they've been brought up to kind of keep the walls of everything is perfect in my world and everything looks great and are silently so struggling on the inside.
Yeah, the whole idea of I'm fine. And especially now with the social media stuff and how you see everything's curated so perfectly, it does create a really false sense of what's actually going on in everyone else's world. And I think that's a huge trap we can all fall into. So I think that's really important too. And I hate the words I'm fine because there's just nothing good that comes from that, because fine is not thriving, it's not struggling, it's not anything. It's just so, lukewarm.
And you know what fine stands for, right?
Yes.
Last up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. So, it really is, we should take it out of our vocabulary.
Exactly.
It's like words you're not allowed to use at home, right? And I think recognizing that. And the other thing I think, at least something for me, was everything was good. Like, I live in Naples, Florida. I'm a couple miles from the beach. It's beautiful. My car's paid off. My kids, are in school or have graduated from school. Like, everything's good.
Yeah. Again, though, that's the other piece, right? Is good is also the enemy of great, right? It's that,
exactly.
Yeah, all those things are good, but I'm still not happy. So there's something else under the surface, that needs to be addressed and looked at. And, we're so bombarded with the shoulds. You should be happy if you have a car paid off and you live near the beach. Like, what do you have to complain about? But that's really not what we're talking about today. We're talking about a very real syndrome that happens to people because it's just something they didn't expect, and they have to maybe find new ways of taking care of themselves with the same love and compassion that they would their children. And that's not something we're taught to do. And then you get to this place in life and it's like, wow, I got to relearn this whole new thing so that I can look after myself and figure out what's next for me. And that's a big challenge. So yeah. So the nest evolution. Tell us a little bit more about what that is, and then maybe give us some advice to some of the empty nest women that are listening right now who feel kind of stuck and what they can do to fix that.
So the nest evolution is a community where we meet. It's not on Facebook, but it's on another platform, and can communicate with each other. We can come together. We do monthly kind of a teaching or coaching or sharing, that I lead, and always have an opportunity for question and answers and sharing. And then as we continue to grow, we'll be adding in a second guest speaker every month, coming in and talking about things that we're interested in at this stage of our lives, whether it's finances in your 50s or hormones or, nutrition, whatever it might be. There's lots of different things: menopause, perimenopause, how to deal with aging parents, how to address situations with your grown children, and bringing in people, because I'm not an expert on all of those things, but bringing in folks that are certified experts, or, that is their job, to come in and talk about those things, and provide, just a place to have answers and, again, a place to come together and connect with others so that we can move forward. A couple of different things that I have the NEST method, which is basically, navigate basically where you're starting from so that you can move forward, kind of like my opportunity that I had on my retreat, but working through activities to help us kind of accept where we're at, and then embrace what needs to change and embrace the changes that are coming. Strength for S, which is remembering our strength. So often we forget how strong and how amazing we are, and what we need is right here inside of us. We don't need to go out to lots of other things. Sometimes it is that reflection of sitting and looking at times that you've been through something and remembering what those strengths are that are really important, because you can look at that and say, oh, wow, I do have that in my toolbox. We forget sometimes some of the things that we've done. And so working on that and remembering our strength, and then transforming and designing what we want our lives to look like as we move forward. So that's kind of a very brief overview of the NEST method that we work through. And, again, the community is something where you can jump in at any time, and we'll just keep working through the different aspects of it as we're going. A couple of things. I think, again, the decision one is huge, because I really feel like when you're stuck and you don't know what to do, you want it to be perfect. And so you read everything, and you take all these classes, and you do all the master classes, and you do all of the, read every book you can find on it. And so you're doing everything, but you're not actually doing whatever that thing is. And so,
that's the analysis paralysis, right? It's like,
right.
Yeah.
And so you're not really moving forward because you're not actually doing the thing. And I
Right.
know there's a poem out there about do the thing. But it really is, it's amazing. Like for me, I, didn't know what to do. And I realized, hey, well, I really do like real estate. And I worked with a real estate investor for 5 years, and learned a lot. And so I took a $17 master class that was like 2 hours a night for 5 nights. And going through it helped boost my confidence because I was like, oh, I know what we're talking about. Like I understand. Oh, I've done that. Oh, I've done that. And so that helped boost my confidence. But then it was also like, no, this is good. Like tomorrow I want to go, like I'm going to go do this. And I started making my list again. And I knew when I started making my list again, like, okay, I found something that, has really sparked something for me and I want to move forward. And so I think that, finding something, maybe you really enjoy gardening or you always wanted to grow orchids or be a bonsai, have bonsai trees and learn how to do that. So what could be your step? I mean, hopefully maybe buy a plant and keep it alive, but that's not my strength. So, maybe go to a master gardening class. One, you're going to meet other people. And two, you're going to learn a little bit about that. And you may go and go, no, forget it. Like there's too many bugs and I don't like the dirt. Or you may meet some new people that can kind of become a new tribe for you and really feel connected to them. So, it can be, I don't want to say it can be as simple as that, but it can be as simple as that. It doesn't have to be, designing your whole life. It could
Yeah,
be
you don't have to
one,
blow the whole thing up and start from scratch. It's just taking
right.
one step in a direction that's new. And I think what's really interesting is I think there's so many of us that have forgotten some of the things we used to love to do when we were younger, because when you get thrust into motherhood and now you're in this full-blown thing and you're looking after the kids and then you got school and drop off and PTA and whatever else you got going on, and it's just full blast, right? So then there's all those little things that we used to love to do when we had lots of time. And it's just remembering those things and allowing ourselves to put that back into our life to add some joy and some peace to us. That is like prioritizing ourselves first, which is really uncomfortable at first. But once you get the hang of it, it's pretty awesome.
Yes. And I will say, having been in the Navy, I moved away from wanting to have a constant schedule all the time. And I recognize, now that I know it's good when I have a schedule and I have things scheduled because I get things done when I have other things scheduled that I have to do, right? It's just like even with our kids, if they just had free time all the time, well, then I didn't really need to get my homework done because I have plenty of time, Mom. Like, why are you bothering me? Stop nagging me. I got plenty of time.
Yeah.
But, when we have lots of activities or things that need to happen or things scheduled, hey, I'm going to go work out at this time or whatever, you recognize, oh, okay, I've got, an hour here. I need to make these 4 phone calls in this hour. And all of a sudden you get things done. And I think that's important because, we've given so many, like you said, like, my kids' dreams were my dreams. I did what everybody needed and I put things aside. And so many of us do that. And then all of a sudden they're off, conquering the world and finding their success and doing the things and figuring it out. And they don't necessarily need to spring back to us as much.
Well,
And
if we've done our job right, if we've done our job right,
exactly. And
they go and live their lives and it's good.
Right. And we celebrate those, their things. But I think, one of the things that we've forgotten is to dream. And, I remember sitting in a personal development class, or working on a mindset class, and it was like, okay, here you've got the, like these 2 pages, go ahead and fill them up with all the things that you dream of, that you want, like just be outlandish, be whatever. And you've got like 10 minutes. And I wrote down like 1 or 2 things.
Yeah. That's hard
And
for
I
a lot
just
of people.
sat
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
And
so
yet,
that's something I encourage others to do. And then do it if you have a spouse or a partner or, somebody that you share your life with, do it with them as well.
yeah,
Because that can, like my husband and I, we did that, and all of a sudden we realized, well, okay, we both want these things, and some of these other things that we thought each other wanted, neither one of us wanted. So it was like, oh, great, let that go.
yeah,
And
that's a great
now,
exercise.
right, and now we're more focused and together and clear on the things that we both want, or that, either one or the other wants, so that we can support and move forward towards those things.
Yeah, I love that.
And have
That's
clarity.
Yeah, that's such a great thing. And I think clarity is the biggest obstacle to all of what we're going through. And I work with women all the time on, you can't really design a life of your dreams if you don't really know what you want. So it's all about allowing yourself to remember what you love, remember what you used to love, remember what comes easy to you, and to be able to say what's next, and to be able to not be afraid of wanting something that you haven't had time to pursue yet, because there's still so many years left, and there's so much joy in being able to step into our authentic self at this age, because we have so much wisdom and so much more ability to be comfortable in our skin, I guess is the way to put it.
100%. I think that taking small actions, no matter what it is, like some days it was, hey, I got out of bed. And, some of us, maybe that's where we're at. Like today I got out of bed.
Yeah.
That may be your action for the day. Some of us, it may be, hey, wow, today I took a walk. And some of us, it may be, hey, wow, today I put in, an offer on a property, or I went to an art class, or I went to,
A
a job
networking group.
interview, or a
Yeah.
volunteer organization that I've always been interested in being involved in, right? But it's finding something that you can do, even if it's super small, every day, some sort of action to help you move forward. And again, that doesn't mean that this is what you're doing for the rest of your life, but maybe that's what you're going to do for the next 2 or 3 weeks. And then you're going to go, yeah, no. But now you're going to be clear that that's not what you want, but there's something else out there that you might really want. And be, you might find that thing as you're working through it. But if you're not taking that little action each day to kind of move it forward, then you're never going to be able to get that clarity.
Yeah, and I'm a huge proponent of journaling. I think I've been journaling my whole life. I probably journal a little bit less now because I'm probably a little more clear. But whenever I've had those moments of not knowing what's next, it's amazing how just sitting still and not giving yourself any kind of, there's no way to get it wrong when you're just writing in a journal. You just write down how you're feeling and what you're thinking about and where you are. And all of a sudden you go, wow, I didn't even know I thought that. and then you can really give yourself some grace and go, wow, I can move forward on that. But now that I know, it's okay for me to let myself have it, and that's such an important thing. So I would encourage that 100% to anybody who's kind of going through a rough time, because that's your sort of mirror in some ways.
And you know what, I think, obviously AI can be some of our best friends and our worst friends, but I think now there's so many opportunities where you can also record things. So I know for me, like, I struggled a lot with writing, and I just would get hung up in my head about writing, but speaking it and just saying it out loud and talking
Yes.
it. And so now, now I can record it and have it transcribed, and then I can go back and look at it and be like, oh, wow, I said that. I don't even remember saying that, but hey, wow, I said that. Okay, that's really cool. Like, I didn't even know I was thinking that about myself, or thinking that that was something that I was interested in, just kind of that stream of consciousness. Again, same thing with writing it, but for some people I know, writing may be more of a, it's a block.
A
for them.
roadblock. Yeah,
Yes,
for sure. And I think that's a really good point, because I think there's mixed camps on, using AI kind of like a therapist of sorts. But in some ways, I do find, like you say, just being able to speak out loud, just put the record button on the AI and just talking out loud, stream of consciousness like that. And I have done that recently. And I do find it to be fascinating to also, surprise myself as to what I'm really thinking and how I articulate what's going on with me. And sometimes you don't realize that you probably know more than you think you know.
Always know more than you think you know.
You always know more than you think you know. And that's the piece, right? We discount and discredit how much our intuition and the inner knowing that we have is truly our compass to get us to where we need to go. But it's when we forget to listen to that we kind of get a bit more lost.
I agree with you, yes. And that that whole wise woman stepping into the crone or wise woman, age, and we're here to help educate and provide the wisdom to the next generations.
Yeah.
And that may be in volunteering at the library. That may be in, going back and starting a business that does whatever it may do. But I think that's important, and it is important to embrace that and go with it. And again, having, those crazy little ideas that pop into your head or into your journaling, if they keep popping in, there's probably something there.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, this has been such a great conversation. And again, I think it's one that's very timely and important for us to have so we can give ourselves grace to move forward and realize that some of these phases that we go through in this midsection of life is just we're not alone in that situation. And we need to give each other grace and connect with each other and be able to support one another. So maybe tell us, before we close up here, how listeners can connect with you and how they can join the Nest Evolution if that's something that would feel like a fit for them.
Absolutely. So thenestevolution.com, they can go there and connect with us and see what we have coming up. And we have a masterclass coming up in a couple of weeks. So they can always jump on and kind of see and learn a little bit more. We'll do an exercise or two, and I'll talk more about the Nest method if that's something that they'd like to learn more about. But really, they can just go to the website and check it out there. I'm also on Facebook, Your Empty Nest Evolution, and on Instagram.
Excellent. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. And I wish you all the success with the Nest Evolution. And hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Marty. I really enjoyed our conversation today.
So if today's episode resonated with you, I would encourage you to share this with someone that you love who might be going through some of these transitions themselves. It's really important for us not to feel alone, and it might just be the one thing they need to hear today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope it inspired you or motivated you in some way to keep going and to create your very best life. If you did, would you take 5 quick minutes to leave me a review on Apple Podcasts? It's the best way for me to know that you are enjoying the show, and it helps other listeners find me as well. And while you're at it, head over to lifeisdelicious.ca and sign up for my email newsletter. It's like a warm hug from me every week, and not only will you get first access to new episodes, I've also put together a free 5-day email experience called the Midlife Boundary Reset, where you'll get 5 days of insights, mindset shifts, and daily journal prompts to help you gently start choosing yourself again and create better boundaries without guilt, drama, or burning bridges. I've put the link in the show notes as well, and I think you're going to love it. One last thing, if you know someone who would enjoy an episode like this, please do them a favor and share it with them. It's the best gift you can give someone that you love. If no one has told you today, there is no one on this planet that is exactly like you. And this world is a better place because you're here. So thank you for being here. I'll be back next week, and I hope you'll join me right here on Life is Delicious.